Scoobtober? Scooby-Doo.
Hey, welcome back to Scoobtober. It's the month-long celebration on the channel with a new video every Monday through Halloween. Last week, we looked at the beloved 2000s era film Goblin King, but this week we're doing something a little different. This month sees the release of an all-new direct-to-video Scooby-Doo movie, Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo, the 34th overall in the series.
Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo. Look for it on digital and DVD.
Hitting disc originally on October 18th, 2022, this is basically Scooby-Doo and Guess Who, the movie, using the same studio, Snipple Animation Studios, and retaining the identical unique character designs from that most recent series. Some people feel that show is too simple, but I personally love it for the most part, especially the episodes with the best guest stars. And this movie has some criminal guest stars too. Kind of, you'll see what that means later. Either way, as the title suggests, it's a perfect movie to talk about for this celebration. Covering something just released is new for this channel, so we're doing things a little different. We'll dive into more at the end this time instead. Let's just say I love this movie and it's my favorite of the recent ones from the last 2 years. Like, I really loved this one and urge you to check it out if you haven't already. Let's not waste any more time and immediately get into watching it. If you don't want spoilers and care about that, make sure you watch the movie before the video. It's a good one. Got it? Alright, let's go. The film opens in Nepal, where the boys are snowboarding away from a cat creature. Meanwhile, Fred swings by in the mystery machine listening to his mystery jams, confirming with the others that they're ready, which of course they are. Casual Daphne slay. The creature brings out the claws, splitting their board in two as they continue sliding. Fred has Velma act, the laser bouncing off Daphne's mirror effortlessly, and perfectly distracting the cat. Fooled by snowmen of the boys, it screams in anger, starting an avalanche, trapping it.
More like Catman don't. Am I right, Scoob? Oh.
They unmask it, revealing Olive Kafka, whose family owns this very ski resort and was upset her father was leaving it to his new, younger wife. Fred asks Velma if the costume matches the others, so she takes a sample to test it and they head out. Fred sees confirmation that the makeup of the suit is identical to every other costume of the criminals they've captured, where they look back at them all, starting with the very first, the Black Knight, who was Mr. Wickles. It turns out the similarities of them all was no coincidence, with all of them being created by one mastermind the whole time, Coco Diablo. We see inside her factory where she's got workers creating all of her many creature costumes.
Happy Halloween! I'm Coco Diablo.
A man asks for the VIP tour, which she complies with, assuring him they only make safe, family-friendly products. Her apprentice Trevor shows her his new design for next year's Dracula costume, and she's not impressed with just another repeat of the same Dracula idea, and especially displeased with the ugly hats he always insists on, threatening to send him to the Gators. As the customer is hoping for something more scary, she brings him into her office, or rather brings it down to them. He reveals Olive recommended her, and that a new highway is going to run through Winter Haven, which Scooby fans will recognize as the setting of the classic Scooby-Doo show episode What a Shocking Ghost. And being who she is, she already knows exactly what he's planned once he starts explaining. She brings out her costume for him, which at first looks more like the Riddler from the 2022 Batman film until she reveals it to be the 10,000 volt ghost from that very episode. Coco offers him the costume for free on the condition he gets rid of the meddling kids always destroying her work, but he says it might not be so easy. Asked why, he reveals it's because he's actually Shaggy and Scooby undercover. The gang congratulate the boys with cops ready, and Velma walks in to give Scooby his Scooby Snacks reward when she sees Coco. I've got a whole video on Queer Velma, which for some reason recently spiked in a lot of homophobic comments. Can't imagine why. So I guess we've got another new addition to that legacy. The cop thanks them and asks how they did it. So Fred explains how he realized it seemed everything was connected and had Velma use data to confirm it, only to be at a loss for what Daphne did to help.
Come to think of it, I'm not really sure what I did, or what I ever do.
Has she not had enough existential crises for her lifetime? Coco threatens them and is taken away, saying all press is good press. The gang is ready to finally relax with no more monsters, but Fred starts to worry about what that means for them as the credits hit.
Scooby-Doo, this is new. Our mysteries are changing.
We get a soft new version of the classic theme song to highlight just how bored the gang is without monsters and their average everyday mysteries. I really do love the song and the mundane visuals they get into here. We cut to 1 year later, and everyone is dying of boredom. Fred slowly losing it, and Daphne asking for anything to do at all. They start to go overboard questioning their current suspect, Fred even trying to rip his face off, but Velma unfortunately finds he was just doing some boring illegal tax stuff. Back in the van, they realize it may have been a mistake to capture Coco, and we find she's gone on to become a celebrity since her arrest. Velma even bought her a new book. She tries to say she buys all books by their past criminals to play it off, but she can't help but point out how poetic Coco's prose is. Shaggy wants them to just relax and enjoy Halloween tomorrow as a foreboding lightning lightning strike hits. It seems like they won't let that stop them though, trick-or-treating as each other all over until Scooby knocks and his paw sticks to the door. They take a closer look but just get completely stuck to it, realizing the house is made of caramel, so they eat it and go on a foodie rampage. Turns out it's a dream they both had and they excitedly try on costumes, so they keep scaring each other. They reach the perfect medium and head to the van, but Fred is so bored he feels like they need to take action, suggesting they copy Coco and make some publicity. He wants to set up a booth at the Coolsville Halloween Festival to drum up business, which the boys are upset will take away from trick-or-treating. Fred suddenly stops, saying he saw his grandmother to the gang's confusion, walking over to a wishing well where he wishes with a romantic flair for a new creepy caper, while the gang realize how heartbroken he's been and decide to try his idea out. Putting the booth together, they make the deal that they do this during the day and trick-or-treating at night for the boys, so they're sent to find people while Daphne is given the important task of putting the guest book on the table and opening it up. The boys get distracted with bobbing for apples when a ghost rises up, and as they run away they realize this could ruin their night, so they casually return without saying what they saw. Unfortunately, Scooby's poker face is awful and he breaks, tearfully telling them, though Fred doesn't believe them. For better or worse, the ghost appears, saying he's here for them as Fred is thrilled his wish came true. They run as everything is destroyed, even the van, and Fred is just excited to start working a case again, with Velma preparing to research, but Daphne feels this is clearly Coco getting revenge, and that they should go talk to her.
I love that idea! I mean, you know, it's completely logically sound.
I like it too.
Really?
But there's no time to lose.
Next to Coolsville Elementary, they visit Coolsville Penitentiary, as they're shown around by the warden, a big fan, and see all the classic villains now stuck in prison thanks to them. You can see so many classic recognizable baddies from the likes of Where Are You or the Scooby-Doo show that it would take too long to even list them all, which is fun.
Mystery Inc? More like Mystery Stink!
Get your trap! How dare you disrespect my friends like that, you filthy crook!
It's okay, Warden Collins. Wasn't even a very good burn.
Suddenly, the warden snaps, freeing all of them from their cells, but when they try to escape, they're electrocuted, so everyone decides to just sit back. Turns out he's modified everything with new technology himself. Daphne cuts to the chase, asking to see Coco to the warden's disappointment, but he takes them anyway and they finally meet again.
You don't seem surprised to see us.
Heard you're having a bit of a ghoul problem.
Shaggy points out she already knows why they're here, declaring her the mastermind and leaves, hoping to save trick-or-treating, but she denies it and asks if they saw any of her signature details, which they can't confirm. Coco points out that she could have recognized who it was if she was there, so Velma immediately offers her to come join them in the van, which she is very excited about. Fred worries it might be bad for their first big case in a year, but agrees it might be helpful, dragging it out as much as possible to the annoyance of the boys. Coco agrees to help if she's released early for good behavior, and one of them has to wear a bracelet matching hers to make sure she stays within the allowed limits, which Velma immediately decides she wants to do. Of course, for technology reasons, nothing else. Shaggy tries to stay focused so they can still have fun tonight, but Scooby is angrily distracted by Coco's cat also joining. Daphne asks Velma what she thinks about Coco coming along, saying she didn't know convicted felons were her type, which, I mean, look at her canon relationship with Marcy Fleech in Mystery Incorporated, obviously it is, and Velma tries to play it off before...
Okay, who am I kidding? I'm crushing big time, Daphne! What do I do? What do I say?
Daphne tells her to just be herself, and when they reach the van, it's still destroyed from earlier. Fred is just so thrilled to be back, he doesn't even care about that though, and he gets it started. Velma tries flirting with Coco, asking how she got into the whole being bad thing, but she sucks so much that Daphne steps in to give her a talk. The broken down van is passed by an elderly woman as the boys realize they probably aren't getting their candy. Finally there, Fred explains his booth idea, which makes Coco laugh, and Velma joins her, trying to make a good impression. Coco steps away, tasting some evidence, immediately knowing what was used for the attack, and is unimpressed. Of course. Friends annoy Coco stealing their thunder, asking her to leave this part to them, but she finds the guest book which has a mysterious signature by someone named Nefario. They head to the library where Velma tries to yet again impress Coco by saying she's totally as bored as she is, trying to show off and seem mysterious for her. Fred finds the book about Nefario they need and they sit down to read it in this great shot calling back to the opening of the original show. We find that this man, Nefario, held a council with members of high society across Europe, made up of a spoiled socialite, an evil scientific genius, and a man with his dog whose appetites could never be quenched. Velma suddenly realizes there's something familiar about them, but Shaggy wants to hurry along. That Halloween, they held a meeting joining Misery Company where they would receive eternal life upon reading the ancient text. Shaggy speeds through the rest, finding Misery Company had to balance out good with evil for eternity in return, and Coco realizes they're after Mystery Inc. because the balance was offset with too much good by capturing her. Unfortunately, he's right behind her, and for once, she's impressed by the technique and lack of wires. But they have to have a chase scene for now, and all the other ghouls join in. Scooby gets distracted from hiding while trying to covertly get them some candy, but it falls and the chase resumes. costumes. Fred ends up running out of breath and it seems he's going to get attacked, but he was just baiting the ghost and runs off. Coco is impressed by Velma's work on their ride, and Velma casually explains how she did it before realizing she's actually being herself with her now, and they all get back together. Putting out they need a new plan, Coco makes a library pun, to the delight of Velma, and Daphne calls the ghouls over and gets them in trouble for noise with the librarian. Meanwhile, the gang sneaks out safely except for Shaggy, whose costume gets stuck, but he refuses to ditch it because he can't trick-or-treat without it.
One of the great paradoxes of the universe.
They get him out and back to the van, where Fred asks what kind of dangerous road Coco is leading them down as they avoid a Scooby Snacks truck, but Velma believes Coco must have made some great observations.
The cute one's right. Esteban, show them my brilliant observations.
Coco goes over all her evidence, sure of who's behind this, taking them to Trevor Gloom's Boutique of Doom. She walks into the place of her former apprentice, sarcastically expressing how proud she is. He reveals he finally had time to explore his own personal style, to which she says it seems like it's just more Dracula costumes, going all in on intensely questioning him about being the mastermind. Daphne sees the security camera and they head back to see if he's telling the truth about not being involved. It seems, however, his defensiveness was to hide that he's had 0 customers and didn't want to look like a failure to Coco.
Looks like
Sorry.
looks like we've hit another dead end.
As Coco says she's justified in suspecting him, he reveals he had a huge order a week ago, Victorian clothes sent to the penitentiary, so all eyes hit Coco. Velma tries to say it's just a misunderstanding as the others are convinced, while Trevor gets the paperwork. Suddenly they see Coco is gone and the bracelet broken, to Velma's disappointment. Outside they find her costume factory turning everything on, but Fred insists on a montage to fix the van before they head up, which has a great song, I love it.
Heavy sound. My heart beats through my chest, hoping now when you see my silhouette, you'll be happy.
They finally finish by nightfall, though it seems Trevor's influence took a little too much of a lead. They head out in their new ride, the boys still being worried about time. As they pull into the meddling parking zone, they are sure Coco convinced them it was Trevor to escape to her factory and have the upper hand, and they search around where Scooby gets scared by all the falling costumes. The boys leave to find snacks while the others overhear the ghosts, all playing cards in the break room. Fred isn't sure what to do, so Daphne takes charge, but the ghosts overhear them and make chase again. The gang end up on conveyor belts where they're separated into different dangerous paths until the ghosts catch them and hang them up to be flattened. How many times now has Fred been hung up like a side of beef? At least his tummy's out this time. The boys, waiting for their snacks stuck in the vending machine, see their friends in danger and decide they have to be brave for once.
Hey, ghouls! Don't forget about me and Scooby-Doo! Yeah, this whole franchise is named after me.
They lead them over to mannequins and courageously say goodbye to trick-or-treating to send them down to the Gators. The others come over now that they're safe, and the Gators throw out animatronic parts, which means someone must have been controlling the robots. Taking credit, out walks Coco. But as she does so, she doesn't seem like she's saying anything of truth, even forgetting the most important part about meddling kids. The gang can feel something isn't right about the confession too, Scooby even pointing out her cat is missing, and he gets a whiff that he and the others start to follow. He reveals the cat is in the office along with someone else, which Coco begs them not to open. Fred is really excited about it all, and just look at how good the animation here is. I love it so much. But all of that is until he remembers that this will be the end of having cases again. They lift up the office anyway, revealing the warden who has the cat held hostage. Fred explains to the officer that the warden is the only person who could have designed something so advanced as the robots, the only person who knows them well enough to replicate them, and the only one who could have freed Coco. He reveals that because he's such a big fan, he was disappointed all their cases dried up after catching Coco, so he wanted to give them a big mystery to repay them for all they've done by using his tech to make the ghouls while planting clues at the festival and library. Blaming it on Coco wouldn't mean anything since she was already doing time. He tells them they were never in danger by showing his button to deactivate the robots, but presses the one to free the inmates by mistake, and his sweat makes him drop and destroy the controller. All the classic villains realize they're free and escape, running rampant on the street.
I think oops is the wrong word, Warden.
I know, but this is a family movie.
Fred's just thrilled the case isn't over yet, and Coco offers her help. She brings out some of her classic monster creations, and the gang suit up, much to the displeasure of Scooby, who's stuck being a cat. The escaped prisoners, meanwhile, are stealing candy from all the kids in the neighborhood, with Mr. Wickles bumping into Fred in his own Black Knight costume. Elsewhere, Velma surprises Captain Cutler with his own suit, and... that's a killer space kook impression right in front of the kook himself, Henry Bascom. Harry the hypnotist is trying to hypnotize kids into giving him candy, but Shaggy in his own ghost clown costume turns them on him instead. Hank tries to pull something, but Coco's cat is in his minor 49er outfit ready for him, undone by his allergy to cats as Scooby catches Olive. They nab Dr. Najib, aka the Mummy of Inca, and all the others finally, including even the likes of Hellas Dudley, aka the Gator Ghoul, so many others, and Velma points out using the costumes for good makes them not so bad. Before the inmates get on the bus, Shaggy Shaggy forces them to empty their pockets of stolen candy, and when they refuse, the 10,000-volt ghost shocks them into compliance. It then unmasks to reveal Coco, who points out they can't eat the stolen candy, so they disappointingly have to hand it all back in tears. Trevor, meanwhile, keeps getting mistaken for a trick-or-treater for some unthinkable reason, and doesn't want the candy, so he gives it all to them. They thank him, saying he's a ray of sunshine, and he agrees, unzipping himself to reveal a surfer dude as he skates off. Velma thanks Coco and hopes under different circumstances they might have gotten along, and Coco is surprised because she thought they were already getting along great.
Do you know how rare it is for me to like someone other than myself?
Jinkies. My glasses! I can't find my glasses!
Meanwhile, Scooby tries to make friends with the cat.
Friends?
No.
Agreed.
Daphne wants to talk to Fred about her role in the gang, saying she feels she should be the leader instead, and he says that's weird, because she's already the leader. She's the calm one under pressure, who everyone seeks advice from and does it so effortlessly, leading by example. Fred just drives the van. The boys now learn you definitely can have too much of a good thing, be it the lack of crime or their big bag of candy.
Right, Scooby-Doo? Another great paradox of the universe.
As the case is wrapped up, they see the tax guy is the new warden since he's used to working with criminals anyway, and Fred assures them things won't get quiet again as he fans his money down the wishing well hoping for as many cases as possible. And it seems it might have worked as an eye opens down in the depths. The credits roll and we get the great song from the van montage again.
I could change, rearrange, and get strange for you. If you want me to.
Eventually, back at the factory, the vending machine snack that got stuck finally falls. And that's the end. So how about that? This is a very different movie from the other recent direct-to-video offerings, especially in the animation department, and I have to say it's probably hands down my favorite movie of the current era. That is if it's not the start of a new one. Who knows what'll happen with Scooby where things are right now. As previously mentioned, Snipple Animation Studios took over for this film like the Guess Who series with the same art style, and I happen to really like the visuals of that show, so I was already happy to see it again. But the fluidity of the animation in the movie is really impressive and enjoyable, some of the most pleasing in a while, and far above the animation even in the related series. Coco's design is very distinct and memorable, and the Ghosts of Misery Company based on the gang aren't the most exciting, but get the job done and are fun in their own way. The acting in the movie is also great, with Kate Micucci especially stepping up here.
Oh, there I go, saying the wrong thing again.
I wasn't a big fan of her take on the character at first, having replaced Mindy Cohn a few years ago when Cohn thought she would be allowed to return after her breast cancer battle, and Kate never quite sounded right or comfortable in the role to me. And Guess Who, however, I really fell in love with her take on the character finally for the first time for the most part, as if she at last really came into the role, and that carries over here where she obviously has a lot to do.
Wow, I'm being myself.
Her immediate infatuation with Coco is portrayed with delightful perfection, both in the animation and performance when they're combined. Kate is still not my favorite Velma. That belongs to Mindy. Mindy C, not Mindy K. Haven't seen that one yet. Myrna Velasco as the voice of Coco Diablo is also delightful in portraying this self-centered, evil-adjacent character.
Can't wait to talk shop with whoever you are when this is over. Your technique is quite impressive.
And I really hope that Coco shows up again instead of remaining a one-off like so many other gang love interests have, like Mercy, the first time Velma fell for a convicted felon.
Judging by the trace amounts of propylene glycol, whoever's behind this clearly lacks imagination. So, we can assume their techniques will be primitive. And since ethereal torpedoes don't actually exist, we're looking for some kind of detonation device that was triggered via remote control.
Matthew Lillard, Greg Delisle, and of course, Frank Welker all deliver excellent performances as we've come to expect by default. The music, both the score itself and the songs featured like the opening and ending credit songs, are really great pieces. I wasn't too sure about the story when watching the initial trailers. This new person, Coco, being the creator of all past villain costumes, the villains escaping prison. The trailer just didn't sell it much. But watching the actual movie was a totally different experience the trailer didn't give at all. Not only did I get the surprise of Velma having a gay romance subplot, but everything else worked out in very satisfying ways. The actual inclusion of the past villains in the movie are very fun and don't distract from the rest of what's happening. And Coco is a great charismatic character for which they do a solid job establishing her believably as the creator of all these iconic suits. It's fan service while having fun. The other thing I was pleasantly surprised surprised by is what we've been tiptoeing around. In addition to being co-written by Daniel McClellan and Laura Pollock, the movie is co-written and directed by Audie Harrison, best known as a writer and director on Cartoon Network's Uncle Grandpa. That alone would turn many away if it was presented first due to the reaction people have to that show, whether warranted or not. That being said, I wasn't sure how that kind of humor and style would translate to a Scooby-Doo title. As with everything else in the movie, I was pleasantly surprised by this. The movie from the get-go got some genuine laughs from me to the end, coming off very charming and full of jokes that land, and great humorous expressive faces throughout. As for the twist, I was also not too unsatisfied there. The problem with Guess Who as a series for me was that the villains were always way too obvious, more than they've ever been before, and I never once was stumped for who it was. Here, I was genuinely wondering if Coco might actually be behind this, really believing it initially when she came out of the shadows until she started talking and gave away that it wasn't her. Or Trevor, who I also was waiting for some kind of twist on. The warden himself, the real culprit, is pretty obvious too. I was immediately suspicious when he showed how big of a fanboy he was, but the other suspects were strong enough to balance things out and make the list seem like any of them could be behind it, if not multiples. There were 5 members of Misery Company after all. Being able to genuinely believe any of them could have done it was much more enjoyable after 52 episodes of sighing through Guess Who's lackluster obvious reveals. Again, no hate to that show, I love it outside of that kind of aspect. Daphne's portrayal of not knowing where she belongs until realizing she wants to be a leader and getting told she was one all along is kind of a tired thing to go with in reinventing her character again, which I don't know needed to happen in this of all movies, but it's an admirable attempt. She's my favorite member of the gang, so I appreciate her getting some love. I do also love Fred's portrayal of slowly losing himself without having mysteries to solve, and all his desperate actions that increase as the movie continues. Shaggy and Scooby are kind of lost some of the time in comparison to the others, but that's not a bad thing, because they can sometimes be too much when they're overused without balance. Here, Shaggy spends most of the movie being annoyed as time runs out and not getting to do anything else, while Scooby fares a bit better, but I think they have an appropriate amount of time to do things, even saving the gang. Maybe could have left a little more impression, but fine overall. As for Velma's movie art, if I haven't said enough, I was shocked and thrilled to see another queer portrayal of Velma after so long since Marcy happened. I am a gay little homo queer person myself, and Scooby-Doo is my thing, so you can put 2 and 2 together on why this development was very thrilling for me to be treated to without any hint of it before watching. Basically, I love everything about this one, so I really don't have anything negative to say for this movie. It's good. And that's my video on Trick or Treat, Scooby-Doo. I can't recommend this one enough personally, though I know it won't be for everyone. That's true of all the movies. Look at me in last week's video. So if you watched it and didn't love it like I did, you're valid too. Whether you did or didn't, let's talk about it. This one is definitely for me though. It's available to buy digitally, stream on the corpse of HBO Max, or buy on DVD, which I already picked up. So check this one out if you haven't yet for some reason. I'll definitely be watching it again many times. Hope you like this middle entry in the month of Scoobtober. I've never covered something brand new before, so I don't know how this will be received in comparison to the other movie videos, but I'm glad I scheduled it before even seeing the movie now that I love it so much. The final 2 videos of the month-long celebration will cover 2 more heavily requested villains and episodes, including an episode of Be Cool Scooby-Doo for the first time as a bonus, with those videos already having been finished in advance and uploaded like the first 2 in September and waiting to premiere. This is actually the only video that was made in October. I hope you watched those too. I guess that's the end of this one though. Subscribe so you don't miss anything, like the video for algorithm purposes because my channel's not a favorite of the YouTube gods right now. Follow on social media if you want, etc. See you next time, bye! The boys get distracted with bobbing apples. What?